Hello, and welcome to SciShow Talk Show. It's that day on SciShow where we talk to interesting people about interesting things. And today we have an amazingly interesting person. This is Jack Horner, who is a discoverer of several species of dinosaurs, professor at Montana State University, and general, kind of a bit of a legendary paleontologist. Groaned a little bit. Yeah, so what would you say you do?
I'm a glorified ditch digger.
So you dig?
I dig holes in the ground, right?
You have people dig holes in the ground?
Actually, I do. I usually go find something and then I have the graduate students dig it up.
So do you have any idea what your first dinosaur skeleton was?
The first dinosaur bone I found and the first skeleton I found were, well, the first bone was part of a duck-billed dinosaur, and the first skeleton I found was the tail end of a duck-billed dinosaur, and then I think the first dinosaur I actually excavated was a duck-billed dinosaur also, so okay. I kind of like duck-billed dinosaurs.
How did that go from just a combination of luck and skill to a career?
Well, let's see. I somehow graduated from high school.
Okay.
I got a D minus in English.
I didn't know they could give that many minuses.
Well, you know,
they just really wanted you to
They wanted me out of there, I guess. But my senior year in high school, I did a science project on dinosaurs. I was puzzled. All the time I was growing up in Shelby, close to Canada, I would go into Canada and look at their fossils, and they had some great dinosaurs. And the ones that we were getting in Montana were awful. I mean, it was just, and I was very interested in why the dinosaurs were so cool and so nice skeletons in Alberta and crappy in Montana. And so I did a science project about that. And I won our science fair with it, and came here to Missoula for the state science fair, and the geology department people were very impressed with it, and so they invited me to come to study geology here at U of M.
Nice.
And
even with your D minus.
Well, they didn't know how bad my grades were. So I came to Missoula, and I was here the first semester. I flunked out, but then they just put, that you get to come the second semester or the second quarter because you're on probation. And then I flunked out that one too. And then I was drafted, and I went to Vietnam, and then I came back, and I went promptly right back to college again with my 0.06 grade average. And
work up from there.
And I'm severely dyslexic, so that was the problem, but nobody knew what it was.
Right.
And I just really wanted to learn about fossils, and they had a great program in paleontology here. And so I flunked all the classes, but I took them all and flunked out 6 more times. But I had an advisor who, he couldn't figure it out. He was like, Jack does good with studying things, but he just doesn't pass the tests.
Yeah.
And so he kept writing these letters to get me back into school. And I just kept going until I had taken all of the classes. And
At least taken them, not passed them.
I didn't pass any of them, no. But I took all of them. And so I had really taken a lot of paleontology classes and some archaeology and, basically everything I thought I needed to be a paleontologist. And then I started applying for jobs in museums all over the world. Wherever they spoke English, I would get the address and send. And then I got a job at Princeton University as a technician, cleaning the fossils.
Right.
And that was 1975. And so in 1977, on vacation back in Montana, I went back to the place I'd found my first dinosaur bone. And I found a crushed egg. And it was the first dinosaur egg found in the Western Hemisphere. which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then a year later, in the same area, my friend Bob Mackla and I excavated the baby dinosaurs near Shoto. And so I published my very first scientific paper in the journal Nature, which was good.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
Right. And so Princeton University then promoted me to research scientist. And that's where my career started.
That's great. So that find in Shoto, what did that end up telling us about dinosaurs in general?
Well, it was sort of perfect timing. John Ostrom, a professor at Yale University, had just, a few years before proposed that dinosaurs and birds were related. And nobody believed him. I mean, people just could not get off this whole thing of, birds and dinosaurs being related. So when the nest was found with babies in it that clearly had been cared for, it did a lot to sort of move the general public to understanding that dinosaurs and birds could be related.
Did you accept this idea that birds and dinosaurs were closely related pretty quickly, or was that just wait for the evidence to tell kind of thing?
I was skeptical, but John Ostrom came to visit Princeton while I was there, and he looked at the babies and he agreed that they were babies. A lot of scientists didn't agree that they were babies because no one had ever seen a baby dinosaur before. And so there were 15 of them in a nest-like structure.
Yeah.
And so he agreed, and so.
I do like the idea of just tiny dinosaurs that just hang out 15 at a time in a little nest together.
Yes.
They're adults, though.
Right.
Just,
I mean, it was just weird
roommates.
if you think about it. Right. I was fortunate to find the first dinosaur embryo in the world, and people had dinosaur eggs from the 1800s, and it never occurred to anyone to actually open one up and look inside.
Well, you don't want to. You take this thing that's been preserved for tens of millions of years and cut it open.
Yeah, but glue is cheap. Just glue.
So you just tap, 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 tap the egg away?
The first time I found a dinosaur egg, I took a chisel and a hammer and busted it open. Without busting it, just think it's like having a birthday present or a Christmas present you never open because the package is so pretty. Right? I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's this weird preconceived idea that the egg is the precious thing, when in fact the embryo inside is a lot more important.
So how did that process, like a little chisel, I imagine? Like how do you separate?
The egg was about that big, and the chisel was that wide.
Well, okay. You just right down the middle.
Yeah.
And just like.
Well, the first one I opened up didn't have an embryo in it, so I had to glue it back together.
I see. You can just put it back together.
Right.
Okay.
There was the third or fourth one that had the first embryo.
It's just you're just a
embryo
terror,
in the whole world.
just going around breaking dinosaur eggs. People must think you're crazy.
I tried to get the French. They had a whole bunch of beautiful round eggs, and I asked them if we could just drop them on the floor and look inside. They didn't like that. CAT scanners didn't work very well in those days, so you couldn't really CAT scan them. You can now.
So you are also semi-well known for your quest to make a dinosaur, or thoughts about how to make a dinosaur. Of course, we all know that all you have to do is get some amber with a mosquito inside, drill out the blood, and clone the dinosaur with this tens of millions of year old blood.
Yeah, that'd be great if it worked.
So first of all, we got to say, in order to get a dinosaur, all you have to do is hatch a chicken egg. You have a dinosaur.
Right.
Go outside, grab a pigeon, dinosaur.
Right.
But if you want a dinosaur-looking dinosaur, what's your plans there? How do we do that?
In 1993, I had my graduate student Mary Schweitzer and we got a National Science Foundation grant to try to extract DNA from a dinosaur, from one of our T-Rexes. Okay. And we discovered that DNA just was never going to be, we might find tiny, tiny pieces of it someday, but we were never going to get enough to make a dinosaur.
Right.
And so we couldn't do what we do in Jurassic Park. So it started out as sort of a theoretical thing. Could we make a dinosaur? And so just, sort of looked into it and because birds are dinosaurs and because the ancestral bird actually has a long tail and had arms, I mean, basically we just need to back up evolution. And the way to do that is to use what we call atavistic genes that are actually ancestral, that have been turned off.
Right.
All you have to do is find them and turn them back on again.
So a lot of times evolution happens not by having a gene go from one form to another, but simply having a new gene take over and the old gene no longer expresses.
Right. And so that's what we've been looking for, are these ancestral genes. And
right, so the genes for teeth, they didn't go away, they just stopped being expressed.
Well, the gene for teeth is still there, but the gene for enamel on the teeth is gone.
Huh.
So if you were going to actually put enamel back on the teeth of birds, you would have to do it transgenically. In other words, take the enamel gene and put it back in the bird.
Right.
But we can now produce a bird with teeth. And a group at Yale and Harvard actually figured out a way to change the snout from a bird-like beak back to a dinosaur-like snout. And our lab in Bozeman is working on the tail.
Well, this is fascinating, and I want to talk to you for hours and hours, but the episode has to be a certain length, or else but maybe. And I do get, luckily for me, I get to talk to Jack later on tonight, so I got to save some stuff for that.
Okay.
But I'd like to have a dinosaur join us. We can talk to a dinosaur about itself.
Okay, good.
Let's do that.
That's a good idea.
Hey!
Hey!
Who's this?
This is Hera. She's a Harris's hawk.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
What?
Say that 5 times real fast.
Hera the Harris's hawk.
Yeah.
I was just going to do it once.
Nice. Yeah, you did good.
Are they the kind that sometimes perch on top of each other?
They are,
I saw that on the
yeah.
internet.
Yeah. These guys are really cool. They're not just ordinary hawks. They have really neat behaviors. They have 2 really neat behaviors, actually.
Okay.
So they stack, and the other one rhymes with that.
What, so will they stack so that they can't, like there just aren't enough perches around,
Well,
so they just use each other?
Yeah, like there's gonna be, they live in the desert, they're desert birds, so there's gonna be, few ideal perches. And so if a lower on the hierarchy one goes and finds a good perch, and then she comes along and she's like, that's my perch.
Yeah.
They'll move, she'll land there, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I'll sit right on top of you. So it's the more dominant one, which is the alpha female. She's in charge. Always the female's in charge. And then there can be an alpha male as well, and a beta female and beta male. So
they're more I remember why I ended up looking at this, because I was curious if any birds of prey hunted in packs.
yeah, you got the rhyming word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they stack and they hunt in packs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the focus word is they hunt in packs. So other raptor type birds like this, they eat in groups, but these guys actually cooperatively hunt, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
Reminds me of velociraptors, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would be concerned about even something that size with a snout and teeth.
Yeah, that's terrifying, because these guys, I obviously would not be holding her this close.
Even that beak is something.
But actually these guys don't attack with their beak at all. They use it to eat.
They eat with the beak.
They eat with it, yeah. And it is pretty sharp there to puncture and then rip pieces off. But if they're being attacked or they want to attack, they actually move their head away. They want to use these
Those do look like
feet.
trouble, yeah.
Yeah, which is, raptor means seizing. And so to seize something, and so they use these amazing talons they have down here, really, really strong and sharp, which is why you have to wear thick leather to make sure. She's flown past me sometimes and she'll just, graze me, and it'll bleed. They're super sharp. So that's what she uses to attack and defend herself, is those talons there, which I think is really cool, because they've adapted so much. They have a lot of the same features as dinosaurs.
That's where they got all those features.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their ancestors gave, one of the things I've been working on lately suggests that, other than flight, basically every characteristic that birds have, they got from their ancestors, the dinosaurs. And it might even be in the way they kill things. You know, lions and tigers and cheetahs and so forth will actually kill their prey. They actually go up and they'll bite out the throat, they'll do anything, and they wait till the animal is dead. Birds don't do that. They actually knock them down, stand on them, and eat them alive.
Yeah.
And we think raptorial dinosaurs did the same thing, not by standing on them necessarily, but literally scaling their prey and using their claws, which are recurved. I mean, they could literally have, you just don't even want to think about it. I mean, they would just literally disembowel their prey.
Yeah.
Like rheas
But
and
they
emus.
would be standing on them, eating them while they're alive.
Fun. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen a
watched this
dinosaur
happen.
in action.
Yeah.
It's really, but then, so the wings, you're saying that's pretty much the only thing that these guys have. I mean, they've lost a lot of things. They've lost that tail that dinosaurs have, and they've lost the actual grasping hands. They've turned into wings. But recently, I think is really cool, the very tip of their wing. So there are like dino birds that used to be able to flutter and glide and stuff. Not the pterosaurs, but the actual gliding dinosaurs. So these guys, birds, modern day birds, have this really neat, their thumb has adapted for extra specialized flight. It's called the alula. And the alula allows them to navigate very easily in slow flight so that they can go between trees and they can do a nice pretty landing. So it's like your thumb curls up just a little bit to put in a nice little landing, which is one of the newest things that birds have developed.
Yep. Gliding.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that, we're pretty sure that flight started with flapping rather than gliding. And the gliding came along later.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So is it just like a way to jump higher, basically?
No, it's actually a way to slow down if you're jumping from the trees down,
Oh, okay.
right? And you just flutter yourself down. And as your fluttering gets better, you actually can go somewhere.
Go farther. I thought it was also to help go up a steep hill too.
Well,
I heard about that.
yeah, they, I think Ken Dial talks about things like that.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think, Harry? You're looking around again. Do you want to try and perch on someone else's arm?
I don't know.
You answering for her?
I don't want to make her more uncomfortable than she already is.
She's pretty calmed down now. She's doing a really good job. She was unsure at first.
Okay.
Do you want to try, Hera? All right, are you ready, Hera? Are you ready for this? All right, you put your glove out. Step right on there.
Oh. Yeah, you got it almost a good. Don't flap on me. I see your thumbs.
You're fine. Yeah, you see those? She's
Yeah.
holding them out. I like that she did that, those alulas there, because she actually has damaged wings, which is why we have her.
Yeah,
and the
I'm
reason
gonna
that
ask.
she can't fly in the wild is because she doesn't have those feathers, and it's damaged right on the alulas, the very tip there.
Oh.
So she can't catch prey on her own. And she's a pretty terrible lander as well.
So are these brow ridges, these beautiful grumpy brow ridges, like basically baseball caps, like just so that the sun doesn't get in her eyes?
Exactly. So desert bird, again, and a lot of birds of prey have this because they're going to be flying and they have to look very precisely. These guys, they say they have such good vision, if you want to compare it to a human, that they could actually read the print on a newspaper from across a football field. I mean, so they're flying way high in the air and they can see a little tiny mouse down the ground. They can dive down there, but they really want to make sure that they don't get any glare in their eyes. So yeah, exactly. Keeping the sun out of their eyes. Look, she's doing so good.
This is a
I'll take her
not
back.
insubstantial bird.
Yeah, you want to guess how much she weighs?
I don't know, 3-4 pounds?
Yeah. She weighs just about 3 pounds. Ready? There it is. Did you get your in the face?
A little bit, just a feather.
Good girl. Jack, do you want to try holding her?
Sure.
I'll let you escape over there for a little bit. I
It's a
know.
lefty.
Good girl.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you put your arm right in front of mine and above mine. Try one more time. There you go. Good girl. Yeah, it's a fine perch, huh? There you go. I know. So she's panting right now. That's because she does not fly for a living. She sits for a living. And so just a little bit of flapping is she's going to be out of breath. And so she is trying to catch her breath like we would, and she pants. So you can see she's actually sticking her tongue out a little bit, and that helps cool her down.
She got a breathing apparatus that's a lot better than ours.
Yeah, they do. That's the other. Did dinosaurs have the one-way
Yes.
breathing? They did. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Every characteristic that birds have, dinosaurs had before them, except the flight feather.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know about this one-way breathing thing that you're talking about.
It's
Tell me.
It's really cool. It's way more efficient than we breathe. So we inhale, and then we have to exhale.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have just these
Sacs.
one set of lungs that just go in and out. So these guys actually have air sacs that go throughout their body, and so they can inhale and exhale at the same time. Can you explain in more detail than that?
That's the best explanation. They basically, because there's a bunch of air sacs, and they have them in their vertebrae, they have them between their ribs. They can, as oxygen is coming in through the lungs, on its way to the air sacs, air in the air sacs is coming back out and going through the lungs as well. And so they always have fresh air in their lungs.
Which is how they can sustain flight for so long.
Yeah.
So dinosaurs were a lot heavier. They had hollow bones, and then birds also have hollow bones, but they've gotten even thinner, and then they've lost so much weight with the thinning of the bones, and then the air sacs allow them to fly. So everything has just specialized and specialized and specialized so that they can fly.
But when we find little velociraptor-like dinosaurs, it's really hard to tell if we have a bird or a dinosaur. I mean, we can't really always tell unless you can find the arm to see if it was long enough for a wing. Because the primitive birds had long tails as well.
So Hera, thank you. You look at the people and say, yeah, right. Like that was good. You followed direction very well. Thanks for joining us, Jessi. Thanks for bringing her in. Jack, it's just been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. So fascinating. Great. It's like
My pleasure.
So much knowledge to share. I very much appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to everybody for helping shoot this. If you like this and you want to support us, I would very much appreciate it if you're interested in looking at patreon.com/SciShow, where we have fan funding going on. Thanks to all of our patrons out there. And if you want to just keep watching SciShow, you can go to youtube.com/SciShow and subscribe.